Hey there, Peter here. This is Amazon Rufus, and today we're digging into the 12 product attributes that can quietly flag your ASIN and make it invisible to Rufus recommendations. Your listing isn't suppressed in Seller Central, it's not violating any policies, but Rufus isn't recommending it to anyone, and the reason is buried in your catalog data, not your copy. Here's what's actually happening. When a shopper asks Rufus, what's a good protein powder for women over 40, or find me a compact air fryer for a studio apartment, Rufus doesn't just run a keyword match. It pulls structured product data from its retrieval layer, runs it through a semantic similarity model, and then generates a response. But before any of that happens, your ASIN has to pass a relevance and quality threshold, and that threshold is based on specific catalog attributes, most of which sellers never look at after their initial flat file upload. There are 12 attributes in particular that have an outsized effect on whether Rufus considers your ASIN a reliable candidate for a recommendation. Let's go through them. The first is item type keyword. This is not your title. It's a backend taxonomy field in your flat file. Rufus uses this to understand what category of product it's working with before it reads anything else. If your item type keyword is wrong, outdated, or left at a default value, the semantic layer starts confused. An item type keyword of miscellaneous or a generic parent level term tells the system almost nothing. Second is target audience. This one trips up a lot of sellers. The target audience field in your flat file feeds directly into how Cosmo, Amazon's knowledge graph, classifies your product's relevance for different shopper profiles. If you've left it blank or you've stuffed it with every possible demographic to maximize coverage, the model interprets that as low confidence. A product that's for everyone is, to Rufus, a product that's optimized for no one. Third is intended use. It's a similar concept. This is a structured attribute, not a bullet point. When Rufus gets a query with a specific use case, gift for a new runner, for travel, works in small kitchens, it cross-references the intended use field before it ever reads your description. Missing or vague values here mean your product won't be retrieved for intent-based queries, even if your bullets are perfectly written. Fourth is subject content. This is particularly relevant in categories like books, media, and home goods, but it bleeds into broader categories too. It helps Cosmo understand thematic relevance. If your product is a sleep mask marketed toward meditation practitioners, but your subject content field is empty or mismatched, Rufus won't pull it for queries in that semantic neighborhood. Fifth is bullet point count and structure. This one is more nuanced. Rufus's retrieval layer does index your bullets, but what it's looking for is density of specific noun phrases and use case language. 5 generic bullets that repeat your features in slightly different ways score lower than 5 bullets that each cover a distinct use case, audience, or scenario. It's not about length, it's about information entropy. The model is measuring how much new, useful signal each bullet contributes. Sixth is product description, length, and coherence. The description field is one of the inputs to Rufus's RAG pipeline, the retrieval augmented generation system that lets it answer specific product questions. If your description is thin, or worse, if it contradicts information in your bullets or title, the model flags that inconsistency. Cosmo is essentially doing a coherence check across your catalog data, and internal contradictions lower your confidence score. Seventh is number of images, not just whether you have images, but how many you have and what they contain. Amazon's Rekognition service processes your images for object identification, scene context, and text overlays. Rufus uses this to verify that your catalog data is consistent with your visual assets. If you have 6 images, but 5 of them show packaging rather than the product in use, Rekognition's confidence score on your listing decreases. Fewer than 5 images is a known threshold threshold where recommendation frequency drops. 8th is main image quality signals. Rekognition can't reliably process images with low contrast text overlays, images smaller than the recommended resolution, or main images that don't isolate the product clearly. If the visual recognition layer can't confidently identify your product from the main image, it affects the product's reliability score within the Rufus system. This isn't just an aesthetic issue, it's a data quality signal. 9th is review count and recency. Rufus's knowledge base incorporates customer reviews as a primary source for answering subjective questions. Products with fewer than 15 reviews, or products where the most recent reviews are more than 6 months old, score lower on what the research team calls the social proof confidence layer. Rufus is less likely to recommend a product it can't validate through recent customer experience because it risks generating inaccurate answers to customer questions. 10th is review content richness. This is separate from review count. Rufus analyzes review text for what Amazon's research papers call subjective product needs, the 5 facets of subjective assessment that customers apply when evaluating products. These are subjective properties: event relevance, activity suitability, goal alignment, and audience fit. If your reviews are predominantly arrived on time as described, that's low-value content for Rufus's comprehension model. Reviews that describe specific use cases, mention who they bought it for, or describe how the product performed in a real-world scenario, those are the reviews Rufus can actually use. 11th is A+ content presence and structure. A+ content isn't just a conversion tool, it's an additional data source for the RAG pipeline. Products without A+ content have fewer data retrieval points available to Rufus when it constructs answers. Products with A+ content that includes comparison tables, explicit use case callouts, or FAQ modules give the system more structured material to draw from. The presence of A+ content, specifically A+, that includes structured comparison modules, correlates with higher Rufus recommendation frequency in competitive categories. 12th is catalog consistency across variation parents and children. If you run a parent with multiple child ASINs, Rufus evaluates the catalog family as a unit, not as individual listings. Inconsistency in attributes across children, different item type keywords, conflicting target audience values, missing intended use on some children but not others, reduces the confidence score for the entire parent. A poorly structured variation family pulls down the recommendation eligibility of your well-optimized children. Most sellers assume that if their main listing copy is good, they're fine. But Rufus isn't primarily reading your bullets when it decides whether to recommend you. It's reading your structured catalog data, running a coherence check across all available sources, and making a confidence assessment. Your bullets are consulted in the generation phase, not the retrieval phase. If you don't pass the retrieval filter, your listing never even enters the recommendation pool. Here's the thing most sellers don't realize. These aren't arbitrary rules Amazon invented to complicate your life. They're quality signals. The system is trying to figure out whether it can trust your listing data enough to stake a recommendation on it. If your structured attributes are incomplete, inconsistent, or vague, the answer is no. So what should you actually check? Pull your flat file and go through those first 3 attributes methodically. Item type keyword, target audience, intended use. For most established sellers running catalogs with hundreds of ASINs, these fields were set during the initial launch and never revisited. That was fine in 2020. In the Rufus era, those blank or generic values are actively working against you. Your listing isn't broken. Your catalog architecture might just not be built for how Rufus reads it. The good news is that these are fixable field by field in a flat file update. You don't need to rewrite your copy. You need to clean up the structured data underneath it. And this episode is brought to you by Atomic, growth-oriented Amazon services for sellers who've outgrown generic agencies.